So recently I was invited onto a YouTube live stream by a beer tuber, and we had a few beers, and I opened this beer up here. It's only a 4% pale ale from Cloudwater Brewing Company, 2020 New Zealand hops in it. Really nice beer, tasted absolutely fresh as a daisy, but after I finished the beer, I looked in the bottom of the can and realised it was like 1 or 2 days before its best before end date. So it got me to thinking, can I tell a beer that is past its best before end date? And what are the things that we should be looking out for in our beer? Is it oxidized? You know, what are the changes that happen when beer gets older, especially in hoppy beers, but also in beers that are darker? So up next, it's going to be out of date beer. Hey, welcome back to Views and Brews. I'm Brendan, and this is another one of my delve deeper into episodes where I take a look at something in the beer world. This time round, it is freshness and the opposite of that, I guess, which is out of date beer. I had these two beers the other night, fantastic, from Dare and Cloudwater Brewing Company. One of them was literally nearly out of date when I drank it. What's this one? This one had plenty of time in it, but I didn't notice the difference at all. They both tasted absolutely fantastic. These beers, however, I am guilty of not drinking within their best before dates. So coming up next, we're going to be tasting these beers and seeing, can I reliably tell the difference between fresh beer and beer that is going or gone out of date? And what are the things we should be looking out for in these beers? What are the things that you can look out for when you try a beer and you don't even know what the best before date is on the bottom? How can you tell if it's past its best, essentially? That's going to be coming up next. If you're new to the channel, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It would be much appreciated. We're going to get into these now, and I need to apologize to the breweries that made these beers. Modest Beer up in Northern Ireland, and we've got Beer Hut from there as well, and then we have Left Hand Brewing Company from Longmont, Colorado, and Oddity Brewing. So these breweries are making fantastic beers. I just didn't drink them, and that's on me. So it's my bad. A slap on the wrist, and I promise I will not be buying more fresh beer unless I'm going to be drinking it. That's one of the problems with all of this fear of missing out. You create this big beer stash, and then you go look at it, and it's becoming this big mountain of beer that you're just never going to get through. So one of the things that I think struck me with the Cloudwater beer is that if you get that beer and you don't consume it straight away, you really shouldn't be buying that type of beer unless you're actually going to drink it within that week. And I mean, that's normal to most people, but us beer geeks, beer nerds, we do like to buy beer, and we do like to store it and stash it. Everyone who's a beer nerd has their own stash of beer. You know, it gets put in the back of the cupboard, and sometimes, you know, if that's in the house, that can be too warm. You're gonna get beers that are oxidized and lose a bit of their coloration, lose a bit of their hop intensity. Everything sort of melds into one, and it kind of isn't just the version that the brewer intended. And that's what Cloudwater Brewery are essentially doing on the bottom of their cans. They have a canned on date, a freshest flavor before date, and a best before end date, and all of that runs from 0 to 4 months. And they do this, and they also have this big long spiel on their website about, you know, after the beer has left the brewery, you know, make sure that you're buying it from a fridge, make sure that, you know, the beer is fresh, you know, how the brewery wanted you to actually try it. So, I mean, let's get into these beers and let's just see, can I taste any difference in them at all? Beer Hut are an incredible brewery, love all of their beers. But I'm going to get this into a glass, and I'm going to use a glass that is, not so thick that I can't see through the beer. Because what I want to see if I can see at all is there any discoloration to the beer? So oxidation happens in a number of ways. And one of them is, of course, the change in the color of the beer. I just think that looks absolutely fantastic. It doesn't look dull at all. It really does look bright. There may be just a twinge of discoloration to it, but I think I'm almost talking myself into that. I certainly can't see that. The aromatics of the beer is another way you can smell and taste if there's any oxidation going on. And it just smells so good, sweet. Now, I will say that it smells hoppy, but I'm not really sure, can I reliably say how, what expression of hops I'm getting. Can I pick them apart, let's say? It is just muted. I would definitely say, if you handed me this beer, I would definitely notice that the hop aromas are not distinctly bright, where I can separate the hops from one another. However, the look of the beer is really nice. There may be a twinge of discoloration, but I can't be certain one way or the other if I'm honest about it. Let's give it a quick taste, because the other thing of oxidation is the fact that you can get oxidized flavors of wet cardboard, papery, fruity, a bit of caramel-like, and in the darker beers you can get a bit of sherry going on, where the oxidation interacts with melanoidins and makes that sherry sort of flavor, which is desirable in some styles, but not you're not going to get it in this, but it might get a bit of fruitiness. Let's see. Well, I definitely get some nice piney going on. A little bit resinous. There's definitely that bitterness coming through there from Ella. There is a little bit of melding of the hop character, I will say. So I feel like, the taste, the overall profile of the hops probably has evolved, where once it was more distinct and I could pick out different elements of it. But now I feel like I'm tasting this and there's just a nice melding of the hops. I wouldn't say that's anything particularly negative, but I would also feel that the brewer, when they first taste this beer out the fermenter, would have got a much fresher version and could have probably picked out all of those different elements that I've just gone over. So yeah, there is kind of like a candy stone fruit going on. Definitely a bit of pineapple. Citrus. I will say it's kind of slightly trickier to pick apart the flavors of this. And I think what's happened is, definitely the aromas faded away a little bit, and definitely the hops have sort of melded into one another. I can't say for sure that that's the thing with these craft beers, that I can't really say that that's not how the brewer intended it. But I suppose where Cloudwater comes into the game, they intentionally tell you, you're going to get the freshest flavor on this day, and before the end of this day, it's going to be at its best. But that's best before end. That doesn't mean you can't drink it like 6 months later. It's just not going to be the same beer. However, I'm really enjoying this, but there's a melding going on. That's what I'll say about beer number one. That is Beer Hut's right on time, double dry hop beers as well. they should essentially show up more oxidation. Now, oxidation isn't the only thing we should look for in these beers. Alongside that, you can have, over attenuation. Does the beer get a bit thinner over time? Does it lose its head? Is it less stable? Does the malt sort of balance out more and you get less hop and more malt character, therefore the style becomes slightly out of balance because it's slightly older. Sometimes with older beers you will get particles at the bottom of the beer. On this one there's absolutely nothing. Look, this beer has a couple of days left on its life. I am going to seal that up and drink it later on because we're mid-afternoon. I'm not getting drunk on these beers, but I will be finishing them. Certainly that one anyway, because it tastes really, really well. So, okay, on to Modest Beer. They're 5.5%. Daydreaming of Far Off Lands, which was brought down to me last year. It's out of date. It's best before end of November. So the 20th November, we're at the end of February now. So this one is properly out of date. It also has a New England style yeast strain in it. I feel like these New England styles, you're going to get more of the signs of losing freshness, maybe a bit of oxidation creeping in as well. She's hopping out the can, nice thick, creamy looking foam there. This one's a lighter style colour beer, and I'm wondering, in lighter style colour beers, do you notice the oxidation more so? So now the great thing that Modest Beer do is they put all of their ingredients on the can. I mean, it sounds so obvious when you say it out loud, but so many breweries don't do that. Anyway, Maris Otter, Pilsner, Naked Oats, which is going to make it lighter, and wheat, which is going to make it lighter. Pilsner is going to make it lighter, and it's got dextrose in it to give it a bit more body. Or a bit more ABV, and then it's got those 3 hops, Citra Columbus and Ella, and it's also got a New England style yeast in it. Okay, let's give it a go. So what I notice is it's a little bit thinner foam on top. That sun is beaming down on my head, probably getting a nice big shine off the top of the head there. Yeah, it's definitely thinner, bigger bubbles that are, when you have bigger bubbles on the foam of your beer, you're going to lose them. They're less stable, they're less tightly compact, and therefore they're not able to hold themselves up, and they burst away. Look at that, it's already gone down a bit there, I have to say. Now that is definitely, that's so annoying, that sorry about that. That is definitely going to be because of the age of the beer. Pilsner is a nice, it's got a nice sweet base to it. We've got oats and we've got wheat in this beer, so it should be really thick and dense. But the coloration hasn't changed one bit. It's really, really nice coloration to it. But that head has definitely died off. So that's one of the things that you can look out for on your beers, especially in the New England style, the East Coast IPAs or the lighter beers, that they are going to have a head that dissipates quicker, especially ones that have protein-rich heads that should last a bit longer. So that's a telltale sign that the beer is getting older. And in fact, as I'm just swirling it around here now, the head is coming back, but it's struggling to come back. So I think that's one of the things that I'm really going to take away from this, is that the stability of the head is definitely affected by the age of the beer. So the aroma on it, let's check it out. It's muted, it's definitely muted. There's a sweetness to it and there's a bit of a fruitiness coming through, but not that really burst of tropical fruity aroma that you get on a super, super fresh New England IPA. There's kind of candy coming through here. Stone fruit for sure, and I think I should be getting stone fruit, should I not? Not really. I mean, Citra, yeah, stone fruit from the Ella. It's actually coming across as very, very muted in terms of the hop contribution to it. I'm going to try the flavor now and see if that's affected as well. There's definitely been a massive dulling down of the hop flavor of this beer. There is almost a wishy-washy flavor to the beer now. I didn't notice it so much on the Right on Time, but I do notice it in this one. It's kind of a gentle flavor, a bit citrusy, a little bit grassy perhaps, and not much else. A bit citrus, a bit orange, and very low amounts of contribution from that Columbus. Not getting the pungency. Not getting the pungency on the nose, or I am, but it's very, very muted. Yeah, and overall, that is a beer that I would 100% say it feels like it needs more hops in it, and it would lead me to check the date on the bottom of the can. So that one I could tell. The one before, not so much. Let's have a go at this Oddity beer. Oddity Brewing, Youngsters on Dominoes. It's a pale ale. It's from Oddity Brewing, designed in Barcelona, brewed by Oddity at Whiplash Beer. And it also has that Columbus hop in it, as with the last beer, and it should have a bit of pungency going on. Let's get this one into the glass and let's see if I can tell any difference. We've got a good hiss of carbonation on cracking the can. This is one of those super, super light, delicate malt profile. Look at the amount of really, really strong fizzing going on in that beer. And again, similar to the last beer, but this one I can hear it. It's really, really loud. The bubbles are big and they're popping away and they're just leaving. There's very little stability to the head in this beer. Let me check what the date was, if I can. This one was out of date about a month, about 40 days ago, okay? So look at that, and you can see the wishy-washiness of the bubbles on the top. So one of the things that you can really, really hone in, it seems, is the stability of the beer and the head retention. And you can see, this is the result. This is what you should be looking out for in your beers. You know, if I'm certain, I am absolutely certain that, you know, a beer brewed at Whiplash Brewery would never go like that if it was in date. So this is the polar opposite of what the brewer and the brewery intended. And completely my fault, 100%. I'm drinking it out of date. It says store cold, don't age, drink fresh. It actually says store cold, don't age, and drink fresh. There's a bit of lemon, there's a bit of herbal going on. Perhaps a twinge of lime coming through, and I think that's from cashmere. There's cashmere in here, isn't there? Anyway, cheers, cilantro. Let's give it a quick go. Wow, it tastes thin. There is a lot of lemon going on, but it tastes like what it looks like, which is it's going flat almost. That is a really, really obvious sign that the beer is not fresh. It feels a bit thinner. It's a bit flatter. The head is not going. The carbonation is... It immediately hits the palate and the carbonation just dissipates. It's crazy how much this one has changed. So, and I had this before at a beer club meet, and I remember when I was tasting it thinking, wow, you know, I'm not mad into lemon, but that is fantastic. And it was a lovely beer then. Look at it now. Is that oxidation? Or is that the beer just breaking down all of the flavors? All of that hop is fading away, melding just into lemon. Loss of aromatics, that's a sign of oxidation as well. Am I getting oxidated taste from this one? There is definitely a twinge of oxidation in here, but there's so much lemon going on, it's hard to pick it out. But it kind of feels damp and wet and a little bit papery. So this is one where if you know what to look for in oxidation, you would definitely get it. Discoloration, hard to tell, really hard to tell in this one, but certainly a beer that would have been perfect when it was intended to be drunk, now tastes absolutely weak and less a version of itself, and that is, you know, it's going stale, it's lost its freshness. Again, all of these beers, it's totally my fault, stored wrong, drunk out of date, purely to give myself and hopefully yourself some information on how you can see, is your beer past its freshness date? Is it oxidized in any way? Has it lost some of that hop aroma, hop flavor? Is the head, the stability, the head retention, is it gone? Is there discoloration going on? These are the things you should be looking for. But what happens in a peanut butter milk stout that is really out of date? This should have been drank nearly 5 months ago. Now, I have a theory about this. What percent is it? It's 6%. It's got 25 IBUs. It has peanut butter in it. It has lactose. It has barley. I feel that this one, I'm not going to be able to tell any difference. It looks inviting on the pour. Wow. I'm getting a lot of chocolate and peanut butter on that. That is really exciting on the nose. The head is actually really stable. Unlike any of the others, there's a densely compact, they're very fine, they're almost shaving foam thickness. It's really, there's no way for me to tell that that is old by the appearance of it, you know. And those bubbles, there's 1 or 2 big bubbles in there and they're popping as I can see. But really, it looks absolutely fantastic and inviting. And the aroma when I poured the beer was all there. There was chocolate, there was peanut butter. It burst into my face. It was fantastic. And it's there again. Really nice peanut butter. I'm actually very impressed by the nose of this beer. Oh my God, that is fantastic. I don't like peanut butter in chocolate. I have this thing where I think peanut butter is savory, so I like it. I like peanuts on their own, I like chocolate on their own, but you put them together, I'm not a fan at all. But I can appreciate the quality in this beer on the aroma. Nothing has faded out of that. Now that's interesting, it's only 6% as well, so I would have expected the head to dissipate on this at least. And to be fair, there is some deterioration of the head, but really not much at all. Anyway, cheers, Slancha, let's give it a go. The flavors of that are absolutely fantastic. I'm getting the chocolate, I'm getting the peanut butter. It's really smooth and roasty. But the roast of the malts is kept in check. But there is definitely some malt contribution. The lactose is kind of like sits in the background, doesn't get too much in the way. I wonder, does the lactose keep this head spinning up and maybe makes the beer more stable? I mean, look at that. You can't ask for much more than that. This has lost nothing, and yet this is the oldest of the 3. It doesn't say when it was canned on, but the best before is the 9th of 2020. Therefore, I would expect this probably to have between 6 months and a year on it. So it is at least we're at least a year old in this beer. It smells as bright and as fresh as I would imagine it was when it came out of the fermentation tank. Yeah, if you handed me that beer in the bar, I would never have guessed that is out of date or out of its best before end date. I would say that is absolutely as fresh as can be. I don't know whether that has something to do with the darker malts in it, whether it has something to do with the lactose in it, or it's just harder to pick out the loss of freshness in a darker beer, whereas it's easier to pick it out in a highly hopped beer with lighter malts, where the stability is perhaps affected that much more, and where all of those volatile hop oils deplete that much more quicker, and therefore it becomes more noticeable. So yeah, definitely notice it more in the hoppier beers, and not so much oxidation, but the loss of freshness and the loss of some of the characteristics of those hops, and the loss of stability in the foam and the head retention. And yeah, just thinner, more melded together, perhaps a bit of discoloration, can't be certain though. So what lessons can be learned from all of this tasting of beers? Well, I think there's a few really obvious ones. Obviously, you want to buy your beer fresh. You want to check the canned on date or the bottle date. I've used cans, except my homebrew. Cans are supposed to retain a bit extra or less oxidation, they say, but that's hard to tell as well. You don't want to be buying your beer from the supermarket shelf. You want to be buying it from a fridge where possible. You want to be buying, in particular, if you are going to buy your beer off a shelf that isn't refrigerated, you want to buy it from a place that has a good turnover of beer. And then, of course, you just don't want to buy too much beer. Like I have a horrific beer stash / mountain of beer out in the shed there. And a lot of that beer needs to be consumed, and I probably shouldn't have bought it, but I got caught up in all of that fear of missing out, the limited editions, the hype trains, the one-off, the barrel-aged this and that. Some of those and some of the sours will be fine, but some of the ones that have lighter malts, which we're seeing here today, really need to be consumed pretty much as soon as you buy them. No point storing those beers. Don't be cellaring beers. It says here very clearly, and rightly so, store cold, don't age, drink fresh. It actually says those three things. But that's common sense as well. But if you're looking at beer and you're saying to yourself, do I think that's oxidized, or do I think that's past its freshness or out of date, and you don't know what the best before date is, well, you can see here clearly, especially in this one as an example, the head goes, the aromas fade and meld into each other. You can't pull out any distinct character from the hop. The flavors have all just been diminished, muted. Everything that's been muted, including the head, including the coloration, has gone just a little bit flat, a little bit less bright than it could be, really wishy-washy, and everything about it is just less than it should be. So those are the things that I've learned. I'm really interested to know, have you had any of those same types of problems in your beers? Let me know down in the comments below. Have you got stale, out of date, close to the best before end date beers in your fridge, in your beer stash? Have you got a beer mountain piling up? Is there beer that you don't even know what it is in the back of your cupboard? Are you going to pull it out? Tell me in the comments below what beers you have got and you have tasted, and have you had any other experiences? And yeah, and I think that's going to wrap it up for now. So cheers, sláinte, and it's on to the next one. Bye-bye. And then